Every card has a trap line, but this week I found the escape hatch. Welcome to Lucrative Hammer of the Week. Welcome back to Hammer of the Week, where I tell you the best betting spot on the entire UFC card. And this week we have UFC 320, which is a rematch headlined by Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira. We crushed the last time Alex Pereira fought Magomed Ankalaev. We won a lot of units on that card, and we even bet on Magomed Ankalaev as an underdog. So you know we're going straight back to the well and cashing big this weekend at UFC 320. Before we get to the bet, lads, do me a favor and go over there and click the subscribe button. It's completely free, takes you no time, and I'd appreciate it. So if you don't know what the Lucrative Hammer of the Week is, it's a weekly show where I give you one of the best betting spots on the entire card. It's either my most confident bet, the bet I believe holds the biggest value, or a combination of both. So in the first ever week of Hammer of the Week, we had Jared Gordon moneyline, and he got hit by a car less than 24 hours before the fight.
This is number one bullshit.
And then he went out there and put on a pretty good performance considering he tore his MCL. He did end up losing the fight though. But last week, we came back with a bang. I told you Navajo Sterling would go out there and beat up the likes of Rodolfo Bellato, and that's exactly what he did. I did believe he would get the KO. He wasn't able to get the KO, but it's fine because we still profited by paying the money line. So that's what we do in Hammer of the Week. We make a big bet on the hammer, or at least a bigger bet on the hammer, and then after that, we ladder the hammer, which basically means we add some props to our main moneyline play. So make sure you stick through the whole video because I'll add some juicy props on at the end. So let's get into this week's Hammer of the Week before we decide to smash some juicy props. We're looking to go on a 2-week win streak here. Navajo Sterling beating up Bellato and cashing for us last week, and hopefully we can do it again. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get to this week's Hammer of the Week. There we have it. Patchy Mix at odds of -250 is this week's Lucrative Hammer of the Week. And let me tell you why. While everybody was rushing to the window to bet Patchy Mix as a favorite in his last fight, me and all my VIP subscribers were on the other side, betting Mario Batista at +160 odds and cashing a 30-27 with absolute ease. But this is a completely different matchup. Patchy Mix is now taking on somebody called Jakub Wiklax. And I know most of you guys won't know who that is, but don't worry, I do. I've done the research, so you don't have to. I've gone back and I've watched 6 fights of this guy, so I know exactly who he is. He is the KSW Bantamweight champion, and he's coming in here making his UFC debut just as Patchy Mix was making his UFC debut in his last fight. Now he's facing a UFC debutant, and Jakub, guess what he is, lads? He's a grappler. You can't be a grappler and fight Patchy Mix, or at least it's going to be very hard to win the fight if you're a grappler fighting Patchy Mix. You know why? Patchy Mix is one of the best grapplers in the bantamweight division. And if you're going to grapple with that guy, you're going to get yourself tagged up, rolled into a little pretzel, maybe even submitted. Something I really don't like about Jakub Wiklax as well is that this guy has fought the same guy 5 times. And he's fought the last 3 of those fights in the last couple of years alone. In Jakub's last 4 fights, he's fought the same guy 3 times. 3 out of those 4 fights was the same guy. I don't like that. I don't like that for an MMA fighter because they've literally prepared to fight the same style multiple times. They haven't got different looks in the training room. They haven't got different looks in the MMA contest. And Patchy's been fighting all different styles, so he's used to fighting all different styles. I think now Jakub going up against a new style fighter is going to struggle. You know, not to mention that the fighter that Jakub's been fighting for the last 3 years, Sebastian, is a striker. Now he has to fight a grappler, and a better grappler than himself. Make no mistake about it, Patchy Mix is the better grappler in this matchup. He's also the better striker. He's also more durable. He's also not making his UFC debut. Boys, if you've listened to me long enough, you know that I always try to preach that fighters making their UFC debut often lay eggs. It's something about making that walk in the UFC, man. These fighters, for their entire MMA careers, have longed to fight in the UFC. So when that day finally comes, they get jitters. They get nervous. It's like going on a date with someone you've had a crush on for 20 years. You know, like they can't handle it and they underperform. And I mean, if you're nervous in anything, including a date, you're going to underperform, you know. So I think Patchy has got that out of the way now. He underperformed against Mario Batista. It was still a tough fight for him anyway, and that's why I bet on Mario Batista, and that's why we cashed big money on that fight. But he's got that out of the way now. He's got that underperformance out the way. I expect Patchy to come in here renewed. I expect Patchy to come in here with a fire underneath his ass. One thing I do know about Patchy is that he has been training hard, and he has been training every single day out there in Las Vegas at Extreme Couture MMA. The reason I know that, I've spent the last 2 months there. I've been in Vegas in Extreme Couture multiple times throughout multiple weeks and even multiple months, and every single time I went in there, I saw one fighter, Patchy Mix. Patchy Mix and Tatiana Suarez was in Extreme Couture every time I walked through those doors. I know he is putting in hella work leading up to this fight. On the other hand, we have Jakub Wiklax, who is making his UFC debut. You know, so everything Patchy went through against Mario, now Jakub has to go through that very thing. Jakub fought a KSW, so he fought in front of decent-sized crowds, but man, there's nothing like the UFC octagon. There's nothing like the UFC debut, and this is simply a very tough matchup for him, guys. I'm taking Patchy here. I'm taking Patchy with confidence here. So we're going to bet the money line, but then we're going to ladder the hammer, which means now we're going to go and look at some juicy props that we can play alongside our money line bet. But first of all, I want to know your hammer of the week. Let me know your favorite bet on this fight card, and I'm going to pick out some of the best ones next week. Just go down and comment below. Make sure you subscribed if you haven't already. After you've done that, then comment down below. And like I said, I'll shout you out if there's some banger bets that come through. Matter of fact, let's take a look at some of the last week's Hammer of the Week comments. So my man Gabe 9495 said, Jake Matthews first round KO. I know, sorry, he said first round submission. I know it didn't cash, but man, it basically did cash and then it didn't cash. That was one of the craziest things I've seen in MMA. Like, I mean, that was ridiculous. So sorry, Gabe, if you bet that, you didn't cash. You deserve better, but Magny didn't tap, so maybe you didn't. A couple of people said Brando Perisic, round 1 KO. That's my boy. The Balkan Bear got it done. You know, we cashed on round 1 KO as well as money line. So shout out to anybody else who did that. The Balkan Bear is going to be a problem in the UFC. We had a couple people say Dominic Reyes in round 1. Sorry, guys. You got the wrong guy. You got the right round, though, so, you know. 50-50, I guess. Eddie Spaghetti came through with a great hammer of the week. Cam Rouston KO. Let's effing go. Hope you bet on him, my man. We bet on Cam Rouston KO at plus 500 in a parlay with Carlos Ulberg KO. So that cashed massively for the Parlay Madness guys and everyone inside my VIP. That was an 11-1 shot. So yeah, some decent hammers last week. Well done, guys. To be honest though, every single week when I read out these comments, I just realize, like, even though I know, but it just reconfirms how hard it is to bet on MMA, because 90% of the comments are always wrong. You know, there's like 10% that get it right. So it's a tough game, boys, you know, but we're here every single week doing our best to cash. Another comment from a man, Jake Zimmerman, 5616. He said, this guy got rinsed in capital letters as well. The last UFC and the last 2 Dana White's Contender Series card. Not 1, but 2. It's funny, you know, when I read some of these comments on the internet sometimes, because I have read everything on the internet, you know, about me. People thinking they know about me, my results, where I come from, my family, all this crazy, crazy stuff, when nobody knows me or who I am or my family or my come-up story. And we actually cashed. We actually rinsed the bookies the last UFC card. So look at these results, boys. That's 5.31 units on the last UFC card. We cashed almost every single bet we played. That's over 10K profit for me alone on just the UFC card. On the very same day, we cashed on PFL Men, as you can see here. That's 9.71 units, boys. That's almost 20K for me. So over the UFC and PFL card, which was on the same day, I won 30K. And actually won more than that because we had untracked bets like the parlay I just told you about, Cam Rouston KO and Ulberg KO. And the last 2 Dana White's Contender Series cards that apparently we lost on, as you can see, both of them got crushed as well. We had 1 bet on each and both bets won. And by the way, boys, both bets won in the first round. So don't always believe what you read on the internet, guys, because people talk a hella bullshit. If you want to sign up with the winning team, join my squad. You can do so on the link down below, boys. It's sublaunch.com/lucrative MMA. And remember, this hammer of the week is not my only bet. I'm going to have 15 plus bets almost every single UFC card. Don't rely on one play, please, because if the hammer loses, I might win my other 14 bets, right? So don't rely on it. It's a confident play for me, but like I said, don't rely on it. If you really want to sign up with me, the link is in the bio. That's where you can cash real money with me. But boys, I want to go to my favorite section now where we look for some props. So let's go to the section Ladder the Hammer. So boys, we got our main money line play on Patchy Mix, but now we want to add a couple of props. So I've took a look through the props and man, I kind of like Patchy Mix via submission in this one. And I'll tell you why. I've watched a lot of Jacob Wicklock's fights, right, as I told you, and he's a grappler. So I feel like he's going to try and grapple with Patchy Mix in this fight. Or Patchy's going to grapple with him and he's going to oblige the grappling. And one thing I'll tell you about Jacob, I have seen him put his head in a good few guillotines, man, a good few front headlocks as well as just guillotines. So, I mean, he's taken on the front headlock master. Patchy Mix has elite front headlocks. He's got great DAS, great guillotine, and he's choked out a lot of effing people and good people as well. So why can't he do it to this guy, Jacob? So he played the big bet on Patchy, right? Then we play a smaller bet on Patchy's submission. If he gets the sub, it's great, but if he wins the money line, we win regardless. The last prop we want to do, we need to pick the round, right? We need to go Patchy submission in what round? Now, honestly, boys, this guy, Jacob, has been finished in round 1, 2, and 3. And Patchy has finishes in round 1, 2, and 3. So it's tough for me to pick the round, but I'm leaning to round 2 here. So the round 2 odds for a submission are pretty big. They're plus 700, right? And I can kind of see Patchy playing it a little bit safe to start with because obviously he lost in his last fight. So he's going to go in there, potentially has to, you know, knock the dust off, and he might be a little bit nervous coming back after the loss. And we know Jacob is going to be nervous because he's making his UFC debut. So most likely he's going to be nervous. So I could see a little bit of a tentative opening couple of minutes. Maybe not opening round, but opening couple of minutes. But I do believe towards the end of round 1 and round 2 is when the fight will really start to get going. Look, Patchy can finish in round 1, of course, but at plus 700 odds, I like the round 2 submission for Patchy Mix. So that's going to be the third rung of our ladder. So we got Patchy Mix money line. And if that cashes, we're happy. We've made money on the day. If Patchy Mix via submission catches, we're laughing all the way to the bank. If Patchy Mix submission in round 2 cashes, it's red panty night back at home with your wife. And I'm feeling to see some red panties on my wife. So I'm hoping this one cashes, boys. And if it does, I'm going to see you at the bookies counter. If you want to know the other 10 plays I have and you want to know exactly how much money to stake on them personal to you, the link is in the bio. Outside of that, I'll see you in the next video.